as far as the gender gap goes, I want to say to people that it hurts both genders.
It does.
That what people don't understand. I would love to have a capable partner. Kani miski kajange iska tawrid.
Yeah.
When you are married, የባል ገንዘብ ለትልቅ ነገር ነው የሚስት ገንዘብ ደግሞ ለሁሉ ነገር ነው
One of the reasons we started this podcast is so that we can tell them what we have experienced so that they don't have to repeat our mistakes.
Yeah.
Usually the problem that I've seen with a lot of movements, including the feminist movement, is that we think it works. Whatever is happening or whatever conversations and arguments that are happening in the world, we think it works locally.
ሰላም ለእናንተ እንዴት ናችሁ?
Hello.
Welcome to the Netsanet Podcast.
This is Tsilate and Zion. Today we're going to start in Delipi with comedy night.
I have news.
I have great news now.
So I went to Sakjam 7 ምናምን ሄጄ እኔ ብቻ ሄጄ ትዝ ይልሃል እና ያስቃል ምናምን እያልኩ ሳወራ
Oh yeah, okay.
እና a lot of people ይሄ እንዴት ነው የኢትዮጵያ ኮሜዲ ላይ ብዙ እምነት እንደሌላቸው አሳወቁኝ ጓደኞቼ and I was like, you know what we should do? We have to do it ourselves alkuኝ.
መቀነትሽን ጠበቅ አድርገሽ ገባሽበት?
Actually, this is the funny part. So Sakjam 7 ላይ ሄጄ they introduced a female comic. And I was like, ከዛ ጨረሱ ቀኑን ከዛ ሴት ኮሚክ መሆን የምትፈልጉ ሰዎች ኑና ተመዝገቡ አሉ። ከዛ by that point
ጠጥቻለሁ። ሴት ኮሚክ ብለው
ምክንያቱም አንድ ነው ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ ኢንትሮዲዩስ ያደረጉትና we want more አሉ። Now by that point I've had a couple of beers in me. So I decided እኔ ማስቃለሁ ብዬ ሄድኩኝ። ከዛ በኋላ ተመዘገብኩ ምናምን and then I moved on with my day. ረሳሁት ላይፌ መራው። 3 weeks or so later አንድ ቀን ረፍት ላይ ነኝ ከሰዓት ተኝቼ ነው ደወለ እና ሲደወል I was like
አመረሩ እንዴ አልሽ?
ተረስቷል ብዬ በጣም ዘና ብዬ ነበር ለምን ያኔ I knew it was a mistake ሲነጋ ነገር why would I ever do that ምናምን ብዬ this is a mistake ብዬ ዘለልኩት a one off no he'll probably forget if I ever said anything I just have his number he probably hasn't saved mine መልካም ተዘጋ
ነው ሳይን ያደረገው ካንቹ
I think about they already had a female friend in the crew so ከዛ በኋላ I think about 3 or 4 መታዋል if not more ከዛ I think there's 2 of us አሁን አዲስ የተጨመረ የነበሩት ደግሞ አሉ on the team I think that makes 4 if I'm not mistaken and there's a new one that's also being added to the team
Okay.
እና ሲሄድ like የዛኑ ቀን ጽፈሽ ነው ያለኝ I've never written jokes and I am like I'm funny on accident and if you know me very well I get funnier other than that የመጀመሪያ ቀን something I'm not the type of person you go like that person is a funny person ምትለው አይነት ሰው አይደለም ከዛ ጻፍ ያሉኝ መጻፍ አቃተኝ ምጥ ከዛ
creative block ሁሌ ነው
I think this is a personality block.
No.
Alright. No.
Why are you cooking me on my show? ከዛ በኋላ I recorded it መጻፍ ሲያቅተኝ like I thought it would be easier if I just record my voice and hear the jokes as they're coming out of me and like I would crack myself up somewhere in there like አንድ ሁለቴ ራሴን በደንብ አስቀዋለሁ ከዛ I had like 3 or 4 jokes in there ከዛ ይዤው ሄድኩኝ ከዛ ሚቲንግ ላይ ነው ቁጭ ብለዋል ሁለቱ ሰሙት ማለት ነው like this is like the first one is 11 minutes second one is 1 minute and 50 seconds the third one is like 2 minutes or so
Okay.
እና እነዚህን ኦዲዮዎች ሰሙ ኮስተር ብለው ነው የሰሙት the whole time if you already don't think you're funny that is not the space you want to be in እና ሰሙት ማለት አውጣና
እንደ ፖድካስት ነው ያዳምጡት
and then they went I can see the personality is there and that you can be funny but this is rough
Lovely. They have to be blunt.
Yes and also they sent me like material to read through before I write anything.
አንብበሽው ነበር?
Of course. Because like when I get tunnel vision. So እንትን አነበብኩኝና I forgot about it. Here's the thing. ስራዬም ጀመረ ይሄም አለ ምናምና the next meeting ደረሰ. I was in about 4 or 5 days from the first one. ረሳሁት። ስለ ኮሜዲ በሙሉ ረስቼ ላይፌን እየመራው ቆይቼ እሁድ ደረሰ። ምንም አልጻፍኩም። Okay, let me try and come up with things that make me laugh. ናም ብዬ በፍጥነት የሆነ ነገር ጽፌ ሄድኩኝ። The thing about this is self-deprecating ነገሮችን ነው ጽፌ ሄድኩት because that's my humor as it is.
Okay.
መጀመሪያ እኛ ጋር ስለኪው
No, እሱ የላኩትንማ ሰሙትና ትናፋኒ ያሉ
እውነት
እሱን እኮ ነው ትናፋኒ ያሉ እንደ ሰሙትና I see. ምናልባት ወደፊት ታስቅ ይሆናል ምናልባት ነው እሱ ከዛ በኋላ the second time I went I wrote other things that are related to me that are also light and relatable enough and then they liked that one ከዛ this was a very fast experience because after that Sunday Wednesday ላይ open mic አለ ነይና ይሄንን perform አድርጌዋለሁ
ይሄንን ነው የጻፍሽውን
በሁለተኛው ቀን ወገን I nearly peed myself.
Well, that is the objective of comedy.
I don't think so, but okay.
Not from the comedian. Co-audience no reaction መጠበቀው.
ከዛ በቃ እንትን like ገጠም ሲጥም ነበረ. It was a more serious Amharic oriented like የሆነ እንዴት ነው
ስርዓት ያለው ነገር
The implication is hurtful. እሺ yes ስርዓት ያለው ሶሳይቲ ነው ስለ ፍቅር የጻፉትን በተሰሚ እንዲያቲም ግን ላይ እሱን ወደ ጎን እናርገውና
ግጥም it's the only way you could say everything you cannot say ስርዓት ባለው ሁኔታ ወይም ህብረተሰብ ውስጥ ያው በእንግሊዘኛና በአማርኛ እየቀላቀልኩ ሳወራ አማርኛ ማልችል እንደሚመስል ይገባኛል አማርኛ በጣም ነው የምችለው እንዳሉት ነው የምሰማው አዝናለሁ ማለት like እናታቸው ተሰማቻለች ነው ማለት the same way you would say እኔ በእንግሊዘኛ ያንን ነገር ስል ተሰምቼ የሆነ ሰው ቤተሰቦቿ ግን ይሰማሉ ሊባል እንደሚችል I have the same reaction ለምን እኔ ያደኩበት environment ላይ reading and writing Amharic በጣም like common experience ነውና እናፍራለን የኔው እንደማሁን ይገጥም ነበር Now he had like 50 love letters ምናምን የሚል ሴት ነበረው ና እኔና ሚጡ like ያስቀመጠው በስማም ይያልን የጨረስናቸው like I'm that familiar with the language ስለዚህ I don't think just because it's rhythm ስላለው ብልግና መሆኑን አቆም እሱን ግን ወደ ጎን አድርገው I think I really enjoyed myself እና ከኔ በፊት የነበሩት ሰዎችን ሄክል ያረኩ ነበር ከፊት ነበርኩ አንድ አራዳ አጣጥተውኛል I'm nervous so ጸባይ እንዳለ እየወጣ ነበር እና 5 ደቂቃ ነው የተሰጣችሁ ሲባል like I get it 5 ደቂቃቸው አልቋል ሂዱ ያልኩ ነበር ከፊት anyways ከዛ ነርቮቼ ከተረጋጉ በኋላ and then I performed and I couldn't remember what I said did I enjoy performing yes good I couldn't remember what I said.
What was the reception?
Surprisingly, my favorite bitoch, they don't perform well. Good, like the other comics point out ያረጓቸው ሞመንቶች አሉና እነሱ they perform okay. እኔ የምወዳቸው ፓርቶች they don't perform as well. ምክንያት I think ይሄ የADHD ነገር ነው መሰለኝ where መናገር የምፈልገውን ነገር ሙሉ ለሙሉ ዴሊቨር አላረግም የሆነ ስቴፖች ይዘላለሁ so ቀላል ነው ብዬ ማስበው ቦታ ጋር ስደርስ ይዘላለሁ ብዙ ፓርት and I think that affected me the first time ከዛ the second time a week after that I think 2 weeks after that ሳልሄድ አይደለ open ተኔ ነበር open mic የነበረው so ዘመዶቼ ጋር ደርሼ ስመለስ I had to perform on an open mic አንድ ቀን on a whim ነው ግን የዛን ቀን like ግቢ ምናምን አላሉኝም because like ያንን experience ስላደረኩ I understood why they were asking me to do it so
practice makes perfect
it does and also like ስትጽፊውና ለጓደኞችሽ ስትነግሪው and when you perform it it's a different experience when you perform it አንቺ ራስሽ like you get better ማንም እንትን ኢንስትራክት ሳያረግሽ your personality kind of comes out stage ላይ ሊኖርሽ የሚችለው personality በስነ ስርዓት ይወጣል ከውስጥሽ without any training without anybody telling you to do something now ሁለተኛው ቀን ስሞክረው like the environment is slightly different ያው ይዛ የነበረው uptightness የለም እዚህ የነበረው crowd ላይ እና I performed a bit of my risque jokes and that was received better ኢትዮጵያ ህዝብ እንደሚያስበው ጨዋ አይደለም
እንደምናወራው ማለት
አይ እኛንም ይጨምራል I guess እንደምናስበው ጨዋ አይደለም ያ ብቻ
ጨዋንም ብለን እናስባለን
no I collectively ማን ያስቀምጠኛል ጧት ተነስቼ እኔ እኮ ጨዋ ነኝ ብል ሚጡ ከጎኔ ወይ what are you
ለምንድን ነው የቀመሽው ጧት ተነስቼ
በጧት ውሸት so ሁለተኛው ቀን it worked and I got more familiar with the stage ምናምን it worked better and the jokes themselves are more closer to my personality so they were delivered better I assume and I had a good time so it makes you nervous ስትጽፊውና ለኮሚኮቹ ስትያቸው አሁን እነሱ ብለው ነው የሚያዩሽ you have no choice ሁለተኛ ነገር you tend to over explain a lot of things you wouldn't do on a stage ይመጣል በዚህ ላይ ደግሞ like ምንም feedback ስለማትሰማዛው ጋር you just there like ብዙ ታወራለህ so that has been my experience hopefully ዛሬ when we record this is before Sagjam 9 it's today Sagjam 9 zare no I'm scared and I hope it goes well I hope so now summer she will be there
wow okay I'm the not the dependable
so she didn't even tell me zare እንደሆነ ታውቃለህ she knew I knew so ምንም ዲስካሽን
አልመጣም ብትል ማለት ነው ቤቷ ነው የሚሄደው
ቤቷ እኮ or something like this is just an expression
you don't know her she's done it before
I actually drive to her place like for joy I'm
so
sorry
you're performing tonight
I am performing tonight hopefully it goes well
it will go
and by the time we release this I feel okay with it. I'm willing to throw away this whole episode.
Wait, can we like merge in some of your performance right here? I don't know how a podcast works.
The video ካገኘን ትንሽ እንትንስት ወይም like link in the description እናርክ
okay I'll send it to him ዛሬ ቀርጬ
እሺ
it will be
or like የቲሙን ቪዲዮ ማምጣት እንችላለን by the time we release this and assume I think they will have something out
and people will have a perspective on it's Tsilate from Netsanet funny or not
tough anyways welcome
which also means again የነጻነት people will actually come to you ማለት ነው
exactly there you go
I hope it goes well
if it doesn't it never happened
no
I'm gonna act like it never happened
I'm selfish I want to have a good night and I want my friend to be funny to be entertained
okay
why does he sound like a king from England entertain me Ines vibe ማለት ነው
well he's the one who decided
we
to be
are those kind of well done so
how do I escape this room በእግዚአብሔር ነው
why do you have to ስለዩ አልተፈጠረም ሮቤል እንደዚህ አላለኝም ለመርሳት ሞክራለሁ አንቺም ለመርሳት
that's what I do with all the trauma
እናስታውሳ anyways welcome to the Netsanet section of our podcast well the more serious topics is we can keep this you can laugh I have said worse things on this platform so today we want to talk about workplace interactions with men and women and what we have experienced thus far, what the international topics in relation to this are. እናወራለን ከዛ በኋላ ያው የደረስንበትን ውሳኔ አብረን እንደርስበታለን ማለት ነው welcome ሮቤል ሮቤል works in a corporate office so to speak
yeah
and I wanted to get your ምክንያቱም I don't think you and I have the conventional jobs where like we are 9 to 5 ሙሉን አብሬ መቀመጠው አይነት ስራ አይደለም ያለኝ. I think your experience is also the same, so I want
close to that experience is sales, no, and I don't think it's
more
or
like ጉዳይ ለማስፈጸም የመንግስት ቢሮ ሄደሽ ሙሉ ቀን ሲፈጅብሽ is like the closest we get.
The reality of the 9 to 5 is sitting in a government office 9 to 5.
Yeah,
exactly.
እንጂ ከዛ ያቀረበ like እኔ አሁን if I am at work ምሳ ሰዓት ነው ኮወርከሮች የማገኘው ያለበለዚያ ምን ክላስ and then I leave. I encounter students more than I encounter like coworkers.
So you want to murder your students, not your coworkers?
I don't want to murder anyone.
Not yet.
Not even like it's not yet ምናምን ሳይሆን I don't want to murder anyone from my work. I'd rather leave the job. So
there were a few people, but okay,
tell me. tell us.
No, as a sales Sarah, you get introduced to different type of people. Mostly the more people who gonna invest in the company that hired you, know. So you realize, you know what, murder may not be that bad.
I feel like the Morgan, your familiarity with espionage, you know, there's a person you want to ask you yesra baldebash inqafatish siyon.
I think I'm more familiar with that.
That must be difficult.
It is. It's much more complicated than you can imagine.
Oh, I can imagine.
Okay. So what is it like working in a co-ed space, I guess?
Are there are there like mainly women workplaces or mainly men workplaces?
እናት ባንክ ካልሆነ
እናት ባንክ እና ሳረጋላ ካልሆነ
ሳረጋላም እንኳን ወንዶች መንዳት ጀምረዋል.
Yeah, because that strategy apparently did not work.
The strategy ብቻ ሳይሆን imagine like መኪና I don't want to go there.
Okay.
I don't want to go there.
Your question was you want to hear the joke that was in my head? Yeah.
It's not even a joke, it's an observation.
I think it's actually brilliant that we mentioned that before we go to the co-ed space. There's also the fact that at least my intuition tells me like ውስጥ የሚነግረኝ ምንድነው ሹፌር ስትሆኚ አንደኛ ወይም አገልግሎት ሰጪ ስትሆኚ so አስተናጋጅ ልትሆኚ ትችያለሽ. You might be working on the streets of 24, you know, wherever you are, when you're giving a service, there is
indeed slide by እንዳረገሱ statement
there is this kind of what do you call it, patience you have to have. Acceptance of danger. One of the problems that I knew they faced and narayna nafara የሚያገኙትን የማታፊ አያገኙ. Like that's just, I don't think the women were willing to actually put themselves in harm's way. Men are stupid like that at times. They don't mind putting themselves at risk, or they will go that extra mile. So even the differences of men and women in the workplace or in a profession in Milorazo, Yesaragala can be a perfect case study for that.
Yeah. Mention at the point, if the world was safe, would it be that way? No.
That's
if
true.
we face the same risks men face, would it really be that different?
Because our perception of danger rasu the same አይደለም.
Yeah, I suppose. So co-ed space, working in one. Right, it's interesting. So something about reality or the environment. I get a bit flustered because I don't represent usually the sample space. I represent usually my family, or I represent my upbringing, my education. የመጣሁት ማሳየው በዛ ነው እንጂ በወንድነት ብዙ ጊዜ ማሳየው ባህሪ የለኝም. And I mean that, to be honest. I really do. But in general, like I'm perceived as a man and people are perceived as women. Sisara, it's interesting. The bonding sometimes depends on that. The work you're assigned, the promotion you're given, the raise you're given. And I can say that I'm privileged and lucky. Marketing was necessary, at least advertising agency used. It's one of the professions that hasn't found its form yet.
Okay.
The longest agency we have in Ethiopia is maybe 20 years. Like the first one to enter it. I wouldn't want like an actual creative agency. The fact that it's still finding its way, the interaction between men and women, the fact that it's a co-ed space, it's still figuring itself out.
Okay.
We do want to be the boys club. Of course, the Mad Men era. Advertising advocate argo number. We had the Scotch. I want to return to that era. Scotch and not. You know, the indulgences እነዚህ የነበሩት advantages እንዲኖሩ ይፈልጋሉ.
መጀመሪያ እዛ ጋር በጣም ብዙ የተዘለለ ሴክሲዝም አለ
He's a man.
Again,
he's a man.
Like it has to be stated.
It's like a white person building a time machine. You know what I mean?
But I just once again I said indulgences in a sense, substances, not people.
You had to be specific because indulgence.
Indulgence or because substance oriented indulgence.
There's almost a stigma against being a secretary because of that era.
Yes, that is true. All right, point taken. Thank you. So yeah, we're not madman area. So I think advertising or creative agencies, and there are a bunch, around 10 or 15, they have the opportunity to spearhead, I don't know, progressive ideas in the workforce. They really do. In terms of gender, in terms of experience, in terms of education, is a place I've noticed. So I've been privileged. 9 to 5 bihonim, that conventional 9 to 5 ገብቻለሁ ያላም
I want to ask.
Yeah.
So there's a certain age group in a workspace where people are meeting oriented.
That's true.
How does that translate into the workplace? Meeting oriented?
For obvious reasons, considering you are a professor, technically. And you can see it in your students, when on group project assignment you can tell a certain group of people will align with certain groups for all the wrong reasons. Even class you could tell they're distracted for meeting purposes. How does one handle that?
Like yeah, we have been freshmen, right?
Yes.
You've been in love on freshman year. How did that go?
No.
Thank you. I have learned my lesson. I understand, but not on my watch. Like you can do it elsewhere. ቤትና ፑል ቤት እየተጓተቱ የፈለገ መፋቀር ይችላሉ. Not on my class. እንደውም one of my experiences 5 ኪሎ ስንማር የሆነ አስተማሪ ነበረን ሻራቱ ሚስተር ዮሴፍ አባተ ሴት ለብቻ ወንድ ለብቻ ነው የሚያስቀምጠን እና like I'm considering it like should I not ግን ያው here's the thing I don't like it when group create አድርጉ ስትያቸው the right amount of የሆነ ratio የለም. Like the good students want to stick with
themselves,
the good students, and the cool kids want to be with the cool kids. It's not የሆነ የስሙንጥር እንዴት ነው for the utility of the group የምር አይጠቀሙትም እና every time ስገባ ማርክ ደና ያስገኘኛል ብላችሁ የምታስቡት ግሩፕ ውስጥ ሆኖ like ጓደኛዬ ነው ብላችሁ አትምረጡ. leave them behind if you have to ያልኩኝ ነው ግሩፕ እንትን ምለው create master ምክንያቱም ይሄ one of the things that pulled me together is meeting my other friend Didi. እሷን ግቢ ሳገኛት a lot of things have changed for me. ምክንያቱም I told her a blueprint መጀመሪያ ዓመት ላይ if we do this right we will have a very easy time of it alquat. She was like I bet, and like she held together throughout the semesters. Not because we were like hey struggle እያደረገ ምናም ስለነበር ሳይሆን like it was a good teammate for me. እና ያንን change ማድረግ in my life what it has brought to me I know it. And hopefully I want my other students to find the same thing I had ማለት ነው. So I recommend that they stick with people for that class at least. ለክላሱ የሚጠቅምሽ ሰው ጋር ነው መሆን ያለብሽ ብዬ አስባለሁ። ይሄ እንዲ የብልጠት ሳይሆን I think you're a good student and I think you'll help me understand this topic better, so I want to be around you ነው እንጂ it's not that እሱ assignment ስለሚሰራ ወይ እሱ assignment ስለምትሰራልኝ እኔ ምንም ሳልሰራ አልፋለሁ አይነት ነገር እንዲመጣ አይደለም.
That provides the perfect segue I think into how does people's like I don't know bonding types or whatever in education or in academia, how does it translate to the workplace? It's more or less similar. ነገሮች ባህሪዎች ተከታታይ ናቸው. It's not like it's not like you get hired and you're like I'm going to be a new person, whatever behavior I had back in college is not going to apply. So even personally for me, most of the achievements that I've had in the workplace I can trace back to a decision I made in 7th grade regarding an assignment. It's more about people deciding, I think I'll come to that. But people's interaction with regards to dating or not kind of comes from their perception of two things. I think it comes from their perception of advantage and proficiency. So what...
Talk to me.
Yeah, so proficiency and advantage. So the first one is how capable am I ብሎ ያስባሉ. ሁለተኛው ደግሞ what or who do I need to take advantage of የሚላል. So ይሄ ብልጠት ምናምን ሳይሆን እንዳልሽው ራሴን ከማን ጋር ማገናኘት አለብኝ. አንዳንዱ ሰው የእውነት ብልጥ የሆነና the strategy that they follow, men and women, is who do I need to fondle in order to get to the right places ይሆናል. ወይም ማንን መጀንጀን አለብኝ ከማን ጋር መስማማት አለብኝ ምናምን የሚል strategy ይከተላሉ. አንዳንዱ ደግሞ who do I need to grow with ይሆናል. So more than a gender thing, whether in the workplace, that mating oriented age ላይ የሚሆነው, it's about the personality that you have. Essentially, my basic advice would be don't eat where you eat. That's a good general rule. But I feel like you could also meet really proactive partners at your workplace. I think you really can. Unfortunately for me, as a man, unfortunately.
Nobody wants to touch you?
Wow. Okay. ብዙ የገባሁባቸው ስራዎች I'm always the youngest. Almost all. So I'm disqualified not only by being a colleague, but disqualified by being younger. ስለዚህ haven't had much personal experience.
Meeting የሚለው ነገር was never an option.
Good point. Yeah, it was not an option. And if it was an option, I had to work for it. So, yeah. Let the jokes out. Wait, and not come on a comedy night or something. Yeah.
I know. I also actually, it brings me back to my point. I think workplace meeting ምናምን ካወራሽ, a lot of women would claim harassment and a lot of men would be oblivious to it. Our common friend, I don't think he would know if he was being harassed.
See, Gemma, what do men categorize as harassment?
You have to be at their house at 9 a.m. Like, 9 ስልሽ ባበሻ 9 ሰዓት ሌሊት ቤታቸው ካልሄድሽ በቃ the rest of the things I think are like get tolerated to a point that is disturbing.
Right, I suppose. I think the misperception of harassment, and we have had discussions about this multiple ones, right, is we do not understand what being taken advantage of is. And then we're a commodity, but in a different sense.
Okay.
If it makes sense.
We as in male?
Male, I guess, yeah. Men are commodities, but in a different sense. They're expendable, but in a different sense. So the perception we have of that, ማለት አንድ ሰው እንደ ቁስ እንደ ዕቃ treat ሲደረግ ምን እንደሆነ I don't think they understand. ብዙ ጊዜ እኛ የምናውቀው at least by being overworked. I think a preference that employers have for employing men, one of the factors is that men don't know when they're being taken advantage of. They don't know when you're not paying them for overtime. And it doesn't click in as much that they're being taken advantage of. And that links in highly with harassment as well. In general with harassment, I think a problem that we have is silence. It's at the one actually. So it doesn't start with harassment. It doesn't start with groping. It starts with jokes. It starts with jokes when the women are not around and the male seniors or whatever feel the need to do jokes. And then you have this dilemma moment where you're like, should I call them out on it? Or should I shut up for my own sake?
Am I risking my job if I do?
Am I risking my job security?
Job security ብቻ ሳይሆን level of comfort at the job ራሱ ባትባረሪ ራሱ being ostracized and labeled as somebody who's difficult in the workspace, I don't think that's desirable by anyone.
የሆነ እምቢተኛ ምናምን አይነት ነገር ትባላለሽ
ደግሞ especially in like የመንግስት ድርጅቶች I think there's a certain level of safety and like no ማለት የግል ድርጅቶችና የመንግስት ድርጅቶች ላይ ያለ I think a certain gap አለ። አሁን ለምሳሌ በመመሪያው መሰረት እየሰራሽ ከሆነ የመንግስት ድርጅቶች ውስጥ and if you're aligned with the right people you're safe. ግን like one of the two will fit ካሉ ያኔ ጀምሮ you have to be very likable and social. በተረፈ በመመሪያ መልኩ እየሰራሽ ነው and you're like in the right line up of things. አሁን ለምሳሌ ለስልጣን የሆነ ቦታ ጋር ደርሰሻል or you're in the multiple associations in the መስሪያ ቤት ምናምን ውስጥ ካለሽ የጆብ ሴኩሪቲሽ የተሻለ ነው። ግን በመመሪያ እየሰራሽ ያልሆነበት ሰዓት ላይ ምናምን የመንግስት መስሪያ ቤት ላይ ኢሹ ይኖራል። የግል ድርጅት ውስጥ ደግሞ your livelihood could depend on your boss liking you simply. if that doesn't work out,
the same thing.
Yeah. If your boss does not like you, if they have a weird sense of competition, or like some like a personality flaw, banchi በእነሱም ውስጥ ካለ መመሪያ ገደል ይገባል፣ job description ገደል ይገባል። ሰው ስለማይወድሽ በሰኞ ዕለት ቤትሽ ቅሪ ነው
አይደለ? The same, our mutual friend has been through exactly that.
More than one friend, actually. My sister, her friends, my other friends, where they could not have a good relationship with the bosses, even though they were working based on the job description የተሰጣቸው መሰረት እየሰሩ ቢሆን ራሱ because of personal preferences of the seniors, personal preferences of the bosses, undesirable workspace ይሆናል ወይም ደግሞ they would have to leave forcibly from the job.
So basically I think the tolerance for harassment becomes a factor whether you're liked or not. Whether you're the one being harassed or you're the one who acts okay or not okay with the harassment.
With certain job apply አይደለም. The moment you have a certain job, it's almost implied you're going to be sexually harassed in one way or another.
Oh, yeah.
አሁን ለምሳሌ working on sales ያስተማረኝ ነገር ሲጀመር it was a considerably good company እየሰራንበት የነበረው. The only thing is you have to go to their office and explain to them exactly what your company does. በዛ ሰዓት ደግሞ software company ነው, so you have to explain it from scratch because technically as great and amazing this people in power seem to be, their knowledge when it comes to technology, when it comes to softwares, low. So you have to start from scratch. This is how we can manage to do this. This is how it's going to cost because of the following reasons. Same million explain. So the minute you walk into that office already, there's this fear that you assume because you understand some people just assume because you want them to invest in the company and you want them to buy a certain product, they have a right to treat you any way they want. Or they have the right to invite you, እዚህ ጋር እንገናኝ, እዚህ እንገባበስ፣ እዚህ እንነጋገርበት, and almost like the conversation is no longer a business conversation but a personal conversation because they can afford your time ይሆናል. So sexual harassment in business is not as simple as corporate or not. Certain jobs ስትይዢ hostessoch, they could tell you time and time again, they're better first classes and business classes ሲሄዱ, there are a certain group of people that just assume they can touch them any way they want, they could talk to them any way they want. And now I think the lack of knowledge, this is business and you don't have the right to treat me any way you want because I have this job የሚለው የኛን society lack of knowledge ነው እያሳየን ያለው. And
I don't think that has to be exclusive to our society. It's not an Ethiopian problem. It's more like a human being problem, and also something that I would like to note, whether there is harassment or not, whether there is silence on it or not. ሁሌም እንደዚህ አይነት I don't know ውይይቶችን ሳደርግ ማድረገው ምንድነው በወንድነት ወይም በሴትነት ይመጣ ሳይሆን ሌሎቹን ይሄ ምንድነው ባሉት ስነ ህዝባዊ መስፈርቶች አሉ አይደል? So it's about the personality. So ምን አይነት አስተዳደግ ነበርሽ? Like there are men in positions where even women think they're going to take advantage of them and they get the opposite, and then women the opposite as well. So it's men becoming primates. I think that's the problem. It's not men becoming men. ግን የሆነ advantage የሚወስዱበት ስፔስ ሲፈጠርላቸው they're like, I might as well.
እዚህ ጋር እኮ ያነሳው very important ነጥብ አለ። ያደግንበት society.
Right. To some extent.
I'm not saying የኛ ህብረተሰብ ብቻ ነው ያልኩ ሳይሆን I'm telling you ያደግንበት አስተሳሰብ it doesn't matter ኢትዮጵያ ሆነ አልሆነ. It's the society ስለ as I mean globally,
all inclusive.
Yes, globally ያደግክበት society ወይም ያደግክበት mindset ለማለት ፈልጌ ነው ኢትዮጵያን ብቻ ያልኩ አይደለም. Because there are great people and great men and women in power that actually promote you to be better. There are people that motivate you in a way that doesn't align with your gender at all. But በዛው ልክ ደግሞ ያደግክበት society ኢትዮጵያም ሆነ ሌላም ሀገር ሆነ will consistently show you if you can afford to harass her, why not? If you could afford to harass him, በሴትም በወንድም. So the only difference I see በተለይ በgender በሴትና በወንድ harassment ላይ is when the harassment of men አንደኛ believability በጣም ያነሳ ነው የእናንተ ሲጀመር እናንተ ናችሁ ችግር የለውም victimized የምትሆኑት because how can a woman harass you የሚለው ራሱ is a different issue ሆኖ ይቀርብላችኋል ያስተዋልኩት when it's a woman it's not even about believability. Is even if we do believe you, do we really want to put action to it? የሚለው in question ነው የሚመጣው. Because that person is powerful. You did walk into his office and you are a woman. So technically you are asking for it. Even if we believe you, victim blaming ላይ ይደርሳል ማለት ነው.
Okay.
And now our ideas when it comes to women being the victims and men being the victims place different rules because of our society standards of what men stand for and what women stand for. What do you guys think?
I think men are believed. They're just not supported. Immediately ወደ ውጪ ነው የሚጣለው. Because here's the thing. የሆነ ሰው ደፈረኝ ብሎ ቢነግርህ አንድ ወንድ ምንድን ነው your first question? How usually it's more about how could you say it out loud no ስለ ወንዶች ሲወራ when they come out and tell people like this and this happened to me ብለው ሲያወሩ የመጀመሪያው እኔ at least observe ያደረኩት reaction ምንድነው how could you say it out loud no it's not that it didn't happen to you you're lying about this ምናምን ሳይሆን how could you say it out loud no when it becomes a woman it's not being believed and sometimes like a weird victim blaming እንዳለ ሆኖ at least there's some level of support from women. Then when it comes to a man victim, it's more about how can you say it out loud? Why are you not hiding this about you? No, this didn't happen. I don't know.
It goes like it acts against the very fabric of masculinity. Your masculinity. You're putting that in danger.
How are you putting this out loud? How are you saying this out loud? You no longer qualify as a man. No. Again, if you're listening to the words I'm saying, I don't believe you adellam. They are inherently more believed when they come out and tell stories, but never supported. No. Again, when it becomes a woman, they are more supported, but not believed. No. The story will be scrutinized. Their personality will be scrutinized. Everything that comes with the fact that this person has said something, Emilo scrutinize it. Am I like, is this the wrong value to have in the world? I don't think so. If we're scrutinizing stories, let's be fair about it. If we're victim blaming, let's be fair about it. Like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do it to everybody. If you're not going to do it, then shut up about it. No. My fear comes to, because every time I think I've discussed it. One, we've talked about consent. ምናምን ወዘተረፈ በሴት አንግል ብዙ ጊዜ ተወርቷል። በወንድ አንግል almost never አይወራም. Like we assume men are heard by women. መጀመሪያው ነው. And I think there's a flawed theory somewhere in there. Again, I guess የዛሬ topic እሱ ስላልሆነ I can move on. Again, I don't think men are perceptive enough to emotional manipulation. They are not perceptive enough to being used above their like pay grade per se. ለምሳሌ like a lot of people would have male friends that are doing them a lot of favors. Now አይገባቸውም. I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this የሚለው like of course like this is not about men that are trying to get something out of you for the name of favors ሳይሆን like actual friends that go the extra mile to do a lot of things. ይሄን ነገር ማድረግ እንደሌለባቸው አይገባቸውም ብዬ አስባለሁ because like it's drilled into them from an early age. This is expected of you now. You are a thing to be used now. You're supposed to be useful now, I think. Because, there's this conversation about men not being inherently lovable unless they're useful. Because it's not the topic today. Again, I think this all translates into the workspace because, let's say, I have a coworker. He sits beside me. My humor is my humor. ሙሉ ቀን ስወጋገውዬ ከዛ አንድ ቀን he loses his mind and he says something. What does it look like? እኔ ብዙ ቀን እንደዛ ስለው ሲዘለኝ ኖርማል ነው. Everybody that works around us ይሄ ኖርማል ነው ብሎ ነው የሚያልፈው አይደል? Nobody actually checks him for his feelings ወዘተረፈ. ከዛ በኋላ ደግሞ እሱ reactive ሲሆን he looks like an aggressive person ወዘተረፈ. especially አሁን ይሄ በአዲሱ የእድሜ ክልል በእኛና ከኛ በታች ያለ ሰው ያለበት ቢሮዎች ውስጥ I feel like this could be a possibility. ሌላኛው with women something I want to mention is አሁን sexism watered down በደንብ ተደርጓል I feel.
Okay.
እና it's less direct than it used to be. Good, like it's still prevalent. Something encounter is, let's say somebody wants something serious to be discussed or to be talked about, they don't come to you first. Oh, I need this to be done. If you have the same level and not the same ሰዎች ሲኖሩ, you're not the first choice. It's not communicated, but it's understood. ሌላኛው, if your ስልጣን ሲሰጥሽ, you're a token. You're not actually supposed to be doing a lot of the jobs you're nominated for. You're expected to look good, to look nice. Somebody else would do it now. You know what I mean? And ሌላኛው ደግሞ the conversations with senior coworkers. This is something I really like, that really gets on my nerves. Like, I would communicate my preferences or like what I plan for my career. ምናምን ትያቸዋለሽ። ከዛ ሴት ሆነሽ እንደዚህ ሌሎች ፕላኖች የለሽም ፐርሰናል ላይፍሽ ውስጥ ከስራ ሌላ?
እግዚአብሔርን ሰው እንደዛ ይላል?
Of course.
እሱ ይገርምሻል ነው። like አሁን ለምሳሌ I don't care days. You know me. I have like I care days, and then I have I do not get like
What,
be glad.
To provide preference. What is today?
Today is like
I really care.
I care, but like I'm not fully there.
Okay.
I will get there. Yeah. There are times where like just be glad I scraped myself from the bed and I'm here. That's all you get today. I would get to work, and like my seniors ሳይሆን like
ብዙ የቆዩ ካንቺ በላይ
ከኔ በላይ ብዙዎች አስተማሪዎች ከኔ በላይ ቆይተዋል። ከኔ በታች ያሉት like 2 levels of teachers ናቸው፣ new entryዎች እና ከነሱ በላይ 1 ዓመት ሲኒየሮች። that's it. So ምንድነው they would look at you ምናምንና they go like ብለን አበጠረ ነው መጣን or like the experience of it fully, of course, like because it's not corporate and 9 to 5 አብረን ስለማናሰብ, it's like tiny encounters, you know, like I'm of medium to fat stature ነው ያለኝ አይደል? ከዛ sometimes when you would wear a t-shirt እና ይታያል። አልቆርጠውም፣ ሲጠፋ ይጠፋል፣ ካልጠፋ አብረን እንቀጥላለን። okay? and they would be like borchish. Yeah, it's alive, it's there. I see it, you see it, we're cool.
So this like, is what you mentioned, የተበረዘ sexism እንደበል
የተበረዘ. like why are we talking about my body though? like, and these people are not paying me to look any type of way. I choose to look good when I do ነው እንጂ the bare minimum every day ባረግ ማለት ነው።
I think we should coin that term, like by Tsilate, birz የተበረዘ sexism. I like that.
ከዛ በኋላ ደግሞ it's እንዴት ነው you're like በቃ you're a lot of the things that are offered to you are in relation to አንድ ሜጀርመንቱም ለሴት አስተማሪ እንዴት ነው እኛ ሊያውም one of the reasons they hired as many female teachers እኛ hire ስንደረግ and of course they left better opportunities ያጋጠማቸው ሰዎች was because the amount of students that are female in our department overwhelmingly larger than the men ነው. so like ክላስ ውስጥ ገብቼ እኔ አሁን ሪሌት ለማድረግ ከሁሉም ተማሪ ጋር ትንሽ ይከብደኛል። ምክንያቱም like if you're as interested in the marketing sphere as I am, and not like the type of content I think about, I talk about, especially when it comes to branding sታወራ ምናምን, a lot of cosmetic companies, personal brands, celebrities, conversations around politics, conversations about import exports ምናምን ስታወሪ ሳትወጂ በግድሽ ለሴቶች የሚገባ እኔ because I'm a female and my experience is also female ሳልወድ በግዴ ወደ ሴት ሊና አደርጋለሁ. I have to stretch examples to go like I guess this is a gender neutral example. Yeah. So I'm guessing the experience on the reverse side would be the same.
I suppose. I mean, okay, so there were like a couple of things you mentioned there. The first one, I think the point where we started is the harassment, right? With regards to the harassment, the piece of advice I have is, at least for any movement that tries to go against this type of establishment, in more or less, is don't be direct. These people did not, establish the system by being direct. They did these subtle things, these subtle moves. Eventually, all of them stacked up to get here. The only advice I have, whether it's harassment, and if you believe harassment is wrong, again, that is very important point to mention. If you believe harassment is wrong, make sure you get into a place of power, no matter how hard the struggle is, no matter how hard the biases you face are, make sure to get there and then do something about it. If you try to do something about it in the early stages, you'll be ostracized. You'll never get there. That's something.
That's what I mean.
That's something that I have seen. You have to play the game to some extent to change it.
Do you remember White
or
Chicks
murder?
Or murder. Actor Tayyimu.
Man, no, Terry Crews.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember the story.
What is it?
He claimed that a certain director and producer grabbed his jewels.
Oh.
Jewels. Yes. And nobody believed him.
Because he's big.
Yes. That's the...
They believe... Here's the thing about what I mean about men. Like, sorry. They believe them. It's just they don't support them.
It's not support. It's the fact that you're strong enough to defend yourself. And now, you cannot say that happened to me and play the victim when you could have
the tools.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you could...
Okay.
And now you could have done anything you wanted to that small human. Clearly, you have the muscles to protect yourself now. So, believability and milish, and the idea of strength, you know. You are a man and strong enough not to be a victim. So, it's not that it did not happen to you, Saihon. It's more of you cannot be the victim of now.
You have to do something about it. Good data. Okay.
I think that comes from, I can say the society, maybe even conservative, are worse at this. They don't have ጠንካራነት ሲባል ማለት ለጥሩ ነገሩ ሲሆን እናየዋለን። ለምሳሌ እናቴ ጠንካራነት ስንል then that means that we don't defy ጠንካራነት በጡንቻ ብቻ አይደለም የምንተረጉመው ማለት ነው። ግን እንደዚህ አይነት ኢንስተንሶች ሲመጣ we need to understand that there is a short man in power somewhere. I'm going to make him as like weak as possible. Napoleon. Take Napoleon, right? Achir, like stature ምንም አይመች ማለት በአንድ ጥፊ ፌንት የምታስነቂው ልጅ አለ or leader አለ or some corporate guy. So ያለ ግን ያ ሰውዬ in more ways than you can imagine, he can take advantage of you. Imagine that. Or make her a woman, she's timid, let's make her በጣም አጭር ናት ሚጢጢ ናት ምናምን ግን as long as she gets in the right place, in the right rooms, it doesn't matter if you're 6'9", 2 meter ሆን ጡንቻ ፈርጣማ ሆነ ምናምን, that's not what matters, because strength, domination, aggression, all of these things come in many forms. They come in mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, እነዚህ በሙሉ. And the fact that as a society we can't recognize that is where the problem stems.
That's what I love about our society. በተለይ አሁን በዚህ civilization በጣም ደስ ያለኝ ፓርት ምን እንደሆነ ልንገርሽ. It's no longer the strength of the body አይደለም. The strength of the will and the mind. So technically, the fact that we're women and biologically assigned to be muscle-wise less strong than men means absolutely nothing if you know how to play the game long-term and right.
Okay.
Which can also mean, if I'm not saying bias in the workplace, definitely bias but if you can play it smart and wise and get to that position of power, it can also mean you can change the whole system. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something we do overnight. It's gonna.
I have a question. If what you're doing today is working for you, would you change it? Like we have a podcast. Now our podcast is doing really well. And like we all have like ምንም የእንግሊዘኛ ኮመንት የሌለው comment section አለን እንበል. Now let's say like everything you want in the world is going your way. እንደውም ካሰብሽው በላይ እየሄደ ነው. Would you want to change the world?
I would. ለመሰለሽ I would not want the next generation of women, the next generation of myself to go through the same trial and error or risks that I had to go through to get to that point.
But like what makes your success so precious is the fact that it's unique. What makes the place you're in so special is it's so hard to get to.
If you don't give back, what makes you any different from any
I'm not trying to prove that you are different. I'm trying to prove that there is a certain stereotype that ወደድሽም ጠላሽም a lot of people would turn into, let's say like we're fighting the system ብለው የተነሱ ሰዎች eventually ሲስተሙ እንዲህ ነው የሚሰራው ለካ of course this is why they were so smart አሁን ለምሳሌ like ስለ ኢትዮጵያን ትልልቅ ሰዎች ስናወራ የበሰልን በሄድን ቁጥር ምንድን ነው የምንለው my mom was right these people were right እውነታቸውን ነው እኮ እኚህ ሰውዬ እንደዚህ አድርገው የነበረው ምናምን የሚለው connotation አለ ውስጣችንና how do you think if you play the game now you reach a certain point that you would be any different is that position
education episodeችን የሰራ ነው eventually we'll get to the እንዳሁኑ ከቀጠለ is እኛ ዲግሪ ያለን will be the success stories because degree የቀነሰ ስለሚሄድ throughout ማለት ነው
okay
but you still fight against it and you don't agree against it because you understand what it means
እውነተኛ የዲግሪ ጥቅም ቢኖረኝ I don't think I would disagree
I think the note is how do you check yourself when you're playing the game what is that moment you go do I really stand for what I stood for back then I think what's very important to do that is two things introspection and reflection right so let us ማሰብ አለብሽ ስለዚህ ውስጥሽን analyze argue like ጥያቄዎቹን ጠይቂ መጀመሪያ የጀመርኩበት ነጥብ አሁንስ አለ ወይ do I stand for the same things reflection be supportive be እኔ አሁን ለምሳሌ an experience I had and it's not of men and women but it's more of proficiency if I believe you're a proficient person I want to get you into my industry your ነገር ካሳየሽኝ and different types of intellect verbal intellect visual intellect memory intellect ካሳየሽኝ ማስገባት ፈልጋለሁ ይሄ ደግሞ it's because I'm a social animal and I like it I want to support you to get to a place where you imagine to be and that is even with it's better to make myself indispensable it really is like I need to replace my addict so በፈጥር ይሻለኛል እኔ ግን I don't know my inherent satisfaction comes from even for the people that work under me and then for me if you are a capable adult human being you'll find another place for yourself አንድ ቦታ ይዞ ጥብቅ አድርጎ ይዞ በሴትነት በወንድነት በብቃት ይዘሽው አንቺ የሚተካሽ ካላገኘሽ you failed if you've made yourselves that unique that you're not a place for me that is a failure
I understand but also you're not a 50-60 year old person that is like 10 years 5 years away from retiring and or dying that has different set of ideas from what we do I don't think I fully understand and like hey currently my life values are these then I'm also scared of the person I would become in my later years I also understand what these things could twist a person into ለምሳሌ አይዲያሊስቲክ ሆኖ ነው እኮ ብዙ የመንግስት መገልበጦች ምናምን ሲፈጠሩ አይዲያሊስቲክ ናቸው መጀመሪያ ከዛ ግን በኋላ ላይ eventually we walk into that scary ይሄንን ካላረጋችሁ እንደዚህ መሆን አይቻልም ስፔሶች እንደርሳለን so I feel like is it really that unnatural to be less cooperative with age and power
Okay, so my perspective on this thing, guys. We both have daughters, certainly, at this point. We might as well call
claim
them daughters.
They are not our children. And
biological biology. At this point, accept that. The thing is, one of the reasons we started this podcast, is so that we can tell them what we have experienced so that they don't have to repeat our mistakes.
Yeah.
If I can change the society so that I didn't forget about my daughter. If I can change it in a way like any woman can look and dress whatever she wants to work and still be accepted the way she is, I would be happy. It's not even about the competition and any need to point to it's the fact that that girl is safe to do what she wants and I have done a single thing to actually get her to that point malet. I could die in peace now because that's the world I wish I had lived in Bazadmi.
Yeah.
And that's the world I know a lot of girls that go to work and come home and go to school and come home and have a closet full of clothes they want to wear but understand society የሚላቸውን ነገሮች and cannot wear a mess with ነገር እንደሆነ ስለምረዳው ነው because it always boils down to creating a better world አይደለ and if you cannot at least work towards it, not even achieve it, at least bring a easier stepping stone to the next generation that will step on it and make it easier for them, then what are you doing? What else are you doing? Really?
Making money, bro.
I'm
joking.
I know.
There's this saying that I love. I wanted to start a business, and our mutual friends, the question they asked me, they said, do you want to make bank or do you want to make a mark? That's really a big question that we can go for. And the advice I have for you then, let's say you're the one trying to bring about this movement where the daughters that come after you will have a better time than you. Yes, ma'am. Make sure. I think idealistic movements fail because we make them one of a congregation. Like የቡድናዊ ስናረጋቸው ይመስለኛል ሁሌ የሚወድቁት ወይም you eventually become the leader that you brought down አይነት ነገር or the system you're trying to take down. ለእኔ at least I can say this confidently. I don't know how self-assured I am. ግን most of the ideals that I try to maintain as an individual እንደ አንድ ግለሰብ የሆነ ማሳደግ ማሳየት ለሌሎች ሰዎችም ማስተማር የፈለኩ ነገሮች ብዙዎቹ ሰርተዋል and I love that. But usually when I make it about group effort ሲሆን it usually doesn't work because that introduces so many more variables you can't control. And I think that's what's key. If you can change the perception and you make it about yourself and that's your own mom known as and I think you should practice it. It works. And also accept your privilege. I think as a man or as a woman, please do. There are positions, and people working in creative agencies will know this. There are positions that men will never be hired for, and that women will be, because again, yetabarraza sexism ስለሆነ, they will be left out of it. Even in my experience, there was this position, and I don't mean to blame the particular employer that I'm currently employed at for this. It might be implicit bias, but I remember it took a woman counterpart years later, 2 years to get to that position. It took me a few months. So when it comes to
የተበረዘው and tokenized power,
it's like, yeah. And I think tokens ሲባል ደግሞ, remember when the current administration, they did that 50-50 quota thing for the cabinet of ministers. The biggest problem I had
There's
was like,
a camera in your face just
is this where affirmative action and quotas? I don't know how you create meritocracies like that. I really don't know.
Talking about affirmative action, what do we think about the pay gap?
The pay gap. Do we have enough statistics? The first thing, can we define it first? Like,
the pay gap ምንድን ነው የሚለው ነው. I think the overall difference in ይሄ እንዴት ነው ስሙን ጥሪው በኢንዱስትሪ ማለት ነው በጠቅላላ የወንዶችና የሴቶች ግሮስ ኢንካም ተደምሮ ለሴትና ለወንድ ፖፑሌሽን ይካፈልና the difference ነው የምናየው. This implies ምንድነው የትኛው ጾታ ነው into more lucrative jobs እየገባ ያለው የትኛው ጾታ ነው የበለጠ job security gain እያደረገ ያለው ወዘተረፈ የሚለውን ለማሳየት ነው. The stats themselves ለብቻቸው ይሄን ያህል ትርጉም የሚሰጡ ነገሮች አይደሉም ግን ምንድን ማለት ነው gender pay gap አለ ሲባል what are we exactly pointing out? What's the point of discussing that ሲባል so what are the common jobs women to go into?
Okay.
Management and marketing officially
yes, accounting,
hostessing, beauty industry, mostly women natural. I think.
And also I think it's important industries in industry. I think it's not exactly just a specific industry. So it's more for me. I think there are 3 or 4. There is entertainment or in content production. There is corporate. There is bureaucratic. And the last one is common odd jobs, handiwork or something. So I think it's very important to analyze based on those. ለምሳሌ, if you want a more beautiful face, you will find it with women. Or if you want a more appealing, የሆነ ሰውን የሚመስጥ ገጽታ ከፈለግሽ እኛም ኢንዱስትሪ ላይ ያለ ነገር ነው. Spokesperson እንደዚህ ሲፈለግ እንደዛ አለ. If you want, it's about the brand archetype, I guess. Do you want the conventionally male employee in that or the conventionally female? When we talk about strength, it becomes male. When it comes about spokesperson, or it becomes about appealing የሚለው ደግሞ በእንትን ይሆናል. ኢንዱስትሪዎቹ እንደዚህ ነው የሚከፋፈሉት ብዬ ነው ማለት ነው.
Yes. So the more okay ሲጀመር ምን ያህል ተማሪዎችን እናስተምራለን ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ የሚለውን ማውራት አለብን and when it comes to educated women we have to talk about a certain states ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ሴት ልጅ ካለ ማስተማራቸው የተነሳ ወደ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ሲመጡ ከዛ ስቴቶች allowance አላቸው you can confirm this ከዛም አለመማራቸው አይደለም የሚገርምሽ so of course 50 ስልጣን ይሰጣቸው ተባለ ለማ ኬት መጥቶ እዚህ there's no option ማለት ነው ስለዚህ እንደዚህ አይነት ኤሪያዎች ላይ ማን ነው ምን መስራት የሚችለው ማለት ማውራት አለብን ማለት ነው you don't have like of course ይሄ የስቴም ችሎታ የሳይንስ ችሎታ ወዘተረፈ የሚለው into question የሚገባው like እድሉ ሲሰጣቸው ነው መጀመሪያ does that make sense እድሉን ያልሰጣውን ሰው አይችሉም ማለት ይከብዳል so we don't have a lot of እንዴት ነው አሁን ደግሞ በጣም ኮመን የሴት ዶክተር ኤክስፒሪየንስ ልንገር ይመጣሉ የኢትዮጵያ ህዝብ የአዲስ አበባ ህዝብ ብቻ እንዳልሆነ ማስታወስ አለብኝ አይደል ሶ የኢትዮጵያ ህዝብ ሊታከም ይመጣል አይደል ሴት ዶክተር ያናገረቻቸው ዶክተሩን ጥሪልኝ የመባል ይሄ በቀን 10 የብር 5 የሚደርሳቸው ነው ልጆቹ they are every day disregard ይደረጋሉ ወዘተረፈ now ይሄ የመጣው ሰዎቹ ከመጀመሪያ ይሄ ባያሳቸው ከመሬት ተነስተው ነው their experiences እነሱ ባሉበት አካባቢ ይሄ ነገር የለም ለምን they're tried በቃ that is what they know and that is what they experience I'm not blaming this or that ምናምን ሳይሆን በቃ ይሄ ነው ኤክስፒሪየንሳቸው ነው so ከዛ ወደ ጎን እንበልና the gender pay gap it also implies ማን ነው የፋሚሊን በርደን የያዘና like at the same time ደግሞ ኢንካም የሚያስፈልገው ማን ነው የሚለውን ማውራት አለብን ማለት ነው አሁን I love how the internet talks about women I love it
okay
sarcasm ካልገባ ማለት
ነው
you know how if you don't want to have children or if you don't want to get married you're lazy if you have like career ambitions and you want to you're selfish if you want to give birth and be a housewife you're like ምንድነው ከዛሬ 1000 ዓመት ጀምሮ አንድም እርምጃ ያልተራመድሽ ሴት ነሽ ማለት ነው if you have those choices and there's no like
winning
there's no right choice when it comes to being a woman I'm not saying it's so different for men ያልኩኝ ሳይሆን any progress a woman tries to make into taking her life as her own and እንዴት ነው being responsible for the choices ምናምን ለመሆን መሞከር ሪዋርድ አይደረግም and then at the same time women get talked about for not being accountable women are being talked for being delusional ታዲያ delusional ባንሆን እንዴት ነው በህይወት ምንቀጥለው I'm serious about this like every day there's no right choice there's investment ታደርጊበት ነገር በሙሉ scrutinized ነው you like the environment doubts you so much it ingrains self doubt in you and that is the internal monologue for at least a lot of people I know now so if I want let's say middle class life እፈልጋለሁ ልበለ የሆነ ሰው አገባሁኝ ከዛ በኋላ ሳገባ ያው ናቹራሊ እንወልዳለን there is no option አለመውለድ አይቻልም እንወልዳለን ስለተጋባን አይደል ስንወልድ ከስራ የሆነ ጊዜ 4 ወር መንግስት ከዛ የራሴን ረፍት ጨምሬ 6 ወር አረፍኩ ልበልሽ by the time I return to work my peers have been promoted ከዛ በኋላ ስለዚህ የኔ raise by that point career acceleration it's delayed ይሄ ስራ ላላት ሴት ነው እሺ like ይሄ አርግዛ ወልዳ መመለስ የምትችልበት ስራ ላላት ሴት ነው አርግዞ ወልዶ መመለስ የሚቻልበት ስራዎች ብለን እናስብና ማለት ነው ከዛ በኋላ በአንድ ልጅ አናቆምም እንቀጥላለን right ስንቀጥል ምንድነው ኢንፍሌሽን አለ we can no longer afford the same lifestyle we both have to go back to work ምናምን አይደል now by the time እኔ 2 ልጅ or 3 ልጅ ወልጄ ስራዬ ላይ ያለኝ performance እና if my husband works in the same space የሚኖረን ቦታ እኩል አይደለም obviously so advance ያደርጋል እኔ 9 ወር እያረገዝኩኝ performance effect እየተደረገ ከዛ ላይ ያንዳንዱ ልጅ 6 ወር አርፌ ስገባ ለምን ደግሞ ስትወልጂ ያለ complication መውለድ የሚባለው ነገር እንዳለ ሆነ like these are like rare scenarios ነው ያወራለት ያለ complication ትወልጃለሽ በሰላም ትመለሻለሽ all the kids are fine ምናምን
ideal situation ላይ አድርገሽ
now ይሄ ከተማ ውስጥ ላለች ሴት በጣም ጥቂት ለሆነ section of ኢትዮጵያ ሴት possible የሆነ ነገር ነው እየራቅሽ ስትሄጂ what are the options of jobs you have ነው ከከተማ እየወጣሽ በሄድሽ ቁጥር they're not hired for these jobs even if they are environmental educational ያልን ያህል አያበረታታም reward አያደርግም and therefore they will get married off young they don't have access to the similar amounts of jobs ስለዚህ the most common thing ቡና ማፍላት ጸጉር መስራት ዳንቴል እና እንትን መስራት ስሙን ጥሪው ሰፌድ ምናምን መስራት ከዛም ደግሞ ራቅ እያልሽ ስቴጂ ሌሎች አይተሞችን እየሰሩ መሸጥ ሸክላ ወዘተረፈ አይተሞችን እየሰሩ መሸጥ ከብት ማርባት ያለበት አካባቢ ከሆኑ ሙሉ ቀን ኪችን ውስጥ የመቆየት አረቄ ጠላ የመሸጥ ኦፕሽኖቹን ያያናቸው ከሆነ ግልጽ ከሆነ ማለት ነው ከዛ ግን ያው the same area ውስጥ ያሉ ወንዶች ደግሞ available የሚሆኑላቸው ስራዎች አሉ I'm not saying hey the best ነገር እየደረሳቸው ነው ወንዶችም ያልኩ ሳይሆን ያው የኛ ሀገር ሁኔታ እንደሚታወቀው ነው ሰው ፖሊስ የመሆን የቀበሌ ሰራተኛ የመሆን ሹፌር ረዳት ምንድነው ሌላ ምን አለ ምናልባት ከአካባቢ በቃ የተለየ ላይፍ በጣም ጎበዝ ከነበርሽ የሆነ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ደርሰሽ ትመጫለሽ የእንጨት ስራ የብረት ስራ ተማሪዎች ጸጉር ቤት I guess ሴቶችም የጸጉር ቤት ኦፕሽን አላቸው ማለት ያወራ ያለው ዲፈረንሱ I'm sure it's clear አይደል the way I'm trying to present it so gender እንትን pay gap አለ ወይ definitely አለ ከዛ ይሄ pay gap ደግሞ ሌላ implication ምንድነው ነው so economically speaking እቤቱን ሰፖርት የሚያደርገው የወንድ ገንዘብ ነው ተብሎ ነው የሚታሰበው ግን I feel like we've discussed ከዚህ በፊት አይደል when you are married የባል ገንዘብ ለትልቅ ነገር ነው የሚስት ገንዘብ ደግሞ ለሁሉ ነገር ነው ግልጽ ነው like groceries unless like there are of course አሁንም exception የሆኑ like እንደ ደሞዝ እንደተሰጣቸው የሆነ ያህል ፖርሽኑን ለሚስታቸው ወዲያ የሚያካፍሉ ወንዶች ምናምን እንዳሉ ሆነ ኢንቨስትመንት የሚያስፈልገን ከሆነ ለትልቅ ነገር የሚያስፈልግ ከሆነ የባል ገንዘብ ቤት ውስጥ ደግሞ የሆኑ ኢምፖርታንት የሚባሉ አይተሞች የሚገዙ ከሆነ የባል ገንዘብ ነው የሚበላ ነገር የሚሰበር ነገር easily dispose የሚደረግ ነገር የሚገዛ ከሆነ ግን the wife's money in use ነው ማለት ነው ይሄ both partners ያሉበት earn የሚያደርጉበት lifestyle ነው both partners earn የሚያደርጉበት lifestyle ሲሆን ምንድነው የሚፈጠረው ነው let's say the husband is not working እንበል ወይም ደግሞ for a certain amount of time he's not willing to economical abuse ምን love languageችን ነው ሊሰጥ ፈቃደኛ አይደለም እንበል which means the overall poverty of the household በሷ ላይ ነው ዲፔንድ የሚያደርገው ሰው if he's not willing to share his money የሷ ገንዘብ ብቻ ነው የቤቱ ገንዘብ which means ይሄ ቤት እንዳለ የሷ ሌቭል ላይ ነው ያለው ማለት ነው so if she can afford a whole household አሪፍ if she can't ያ ነው የቤቱ ስቴት ማለት ነው and also ሰዎች early የሚወልዱበት ወይም ደግሞ ያው የወንዶች early መሞት የታወቀ ነው የሚሞትባቸው ባላቸው people who are not willing to share families with their wives people who are cheating on their wives because ኖርማል ነው ስለዚህ 6 ጉልቻ የሚመሰርቱ ወንዶች ይሄንን ሁሉ አስተሳስበው a lot of economical burden of a family on the female ያርፋል at least እኔ personally እንደዛ ነው ማስበው scientifically support ለማድረግ ዝግጁ ነኝ ግን not today
አረ ችግር የለውም ሊንክ እናረጋለን ከታች
እሺ there are studies conducted የተደረጉ so poverty impoverished ከሆኑ public international societyዎች መካከል in percentile ከ60% በላይ ሴት ነው ኢኮኖሚክ ኦፖርቹኒቲ ስለሌላቸው ማለት ነው እኛም ለዚህ ኮንትሪቢዩት እናደርጋለን ነው which means the household ደህና እንዲሆን ወይም ደግሞ የፋሚሊ ስታንዲንግ ጥሩ እንዲሆን ስንፈልግ we have to help women achieve these things that we usually deny them ማለት ነው ይሄው ነው
Okay.
I think I can breathe now
You mentioned a lot of points that I wanted to get in. I don't want to be rude. The first one was let me start it with a compliment. This is why I love this podcast. I think when we were discussing the idea of it as well is we are trying to localize
international ideas,
a globalized world, right, for us, because usually the problem that I've seen with a lot of movements, including the feminist movement, is that we think it works. Whatever is happening or whatever conversations and arguments that are happening in the world, we think it works locally. And why I love this podcast is the right place to have the pay gap discussion is Ethiopia. Why? Because we can actually fix the problem before it starts, right? So the focus of the cabinet of ministers, the 50-50, should not have been about the end goal. It should have been about the process. So how can we go to those actually remote communities? And we're not going to even achieve that 50% of schools or elementary schools will be occupied with little girls. But we'll go and educate the...
የቻልሽውን ያህል ሰው አትሊስት በማስተማር
ግን መጀመሪ ሁላ ትምህርት ቤት እንዲደርሱ አይደለም. You have to explain to the parents how gender and all of these things can work. ከስር መጀመር የምንችልበት አገር ነው ብዬ አስባለሁ. And I love that. And I don't think we should start with Addis Ababa. I think we should go to places I'm familiar with. Gambela ውስጥ, I think on the outskirts, ድንበሩ አካባቢ, there's this community, especially የኢትዮጵያና የማይግራንት ኮሚኒቲዎች አንድ ላይ ኢንተራክት የሚያደርጉበታል, and really nice as well. So you get to have an international approach to it, and you get to have a culture, local one. So I think that's why it's great. As far as pay gap translates to opportunities gap, and then it translates to economical gap. If you want to change it, something I've seen is that ሁሌም በምንመዘንበት ነው የምንሰፈረው or whatever. Like it is the...
I have no idea.
It is the reality we perpetuate that we are measured by, I guess.
Okay.
More or less. So
በሰፈሩት ቁና መሰፈርም አለ ነው
እኔ አሳጥሬው ነው ጭንቅላቴ ውስጥ there's a short hand that I've put in my hand. እኔ አሳጥሬ በሁለት ቃል አስቀምጥኩት አንቺ ትክክለኛው ናችሁ እሱን ያልኩት ለምንድን ነው sometimes men actually look into that privilege or they accept the privilege or they let it propagate because that's what they know and they are going to continue in that. I'm not saying all men, that's really problematic saying that all men, all women in Milo. Because I've seen men accept the standard they're judged by and they abide by it. Could they be more understanding? They can. But why would they?
No, it's not like... Again, I think these conversations get out of hand. ቅድም እንዳልከው የግሩፕ አክቲቪቲስ እናደርጋቸው they do get out of hand. የተመቸው ወንድ ጥራ
ችግር የለም ግሩፕ አክቲቪቲም አናርገው it's fine.
Like የወንድም ፕላይት ለብቻ መለቀስ የሚችል ይመስለኛል. If we are like trying to focus on actually being helpful ማውራት እንችላለን. አሁን ግን like ይሄ የጋራ ድህነታችን ሶልቭ ማድረግ የምንችልበት አንደኛው መንገድ fixing this now. If we get to fix this የሁላችንም ላይፍ ይሻሻላል and you don't have to pay on the first date. You know what I mean? It's a win-win situation.
Wouldn't have to. Future tense are
yes, you wouldn't have to. You know what I mean? If they're like provided the same opportunities, chivalrous mohon ነጥቡ ይጠፋል. That's what I mean. The amount of burdens that men have decided to put on every men sayon like older people have decided to put on everyone alleviate ማድረግ የሚቻለው through this ነው ብዬ አምናለሁ legitimately.
So the other side of the coin I think becomes for me the burden gap as well. There is, right?
እዚህ ጋር before we get there mention ማድረግ የማፈልገው ሁለት ፖይንቶች አሉ. The thing is አንደኛ there has been studies in 132 companies that 46% of women hired 19%ዎቹ ብቻ ናቸው CEO ወይም C-suits ድረስ የሚደርሱት ማለት ነው. እሱን as a stat ብናስቀምጠው ራሱ the fact that a woman that out earns her husband has a high rate of divorce, what does it say to our society? What does it say to your point?
Have you ever had a boyfriend that actually thought he would out earn you, like legitimately?
personal አናርጋትችም
No, I know. I have experienced it. I have experienced it.
We speak from personal experience though.
This is not about our personal experience.
Can we say that የሆነ አህያውን ፈርቶ ዳውላውን አይደለም እሱ አህያውን ፈርቶ ዳውላው
where
society ostracizes him for being weak and you're the tool that he's being made weak through. He can't take it out on society, so he'll definitely take it out on you.
I understand that. Does it help? It does not.
Why?
ምን አረጋለሽ?
I don't know.
I loved you individually. You have to respect me individually. No, society እዚህ ጋር አስቀምጠን we love society እያለን አይደለም. The relationship is not based on that.
I get that, but we're once again a social animal, right?
Yeah.
As much as the individual loves them.
But like, it's not like the society knows how much these people earn unless like አንተ deeply insecure ሆነ ካላሳያቸው በቃ.
No. They notice. For example, take a simple, not this overpaying. You mentioned it. The paying on the first date. Where the waiter places the menu as well with you, that's the society telling you, you're a man, you need to pay. Right? It's not, I didn't let him know, but they actually did that for us. And so it's like, oh, now you'd be like, okay, like I have enough cash. And usually men planning for dates and women planning for dates is something that actually shows where responsibilities or burdens lie. Once again, women shouldn't be ostracized for earning more. Good for them. They got to that place. And men should be, it's not the case, but should be secure enough.
It isn't the
should
case.
be secure enough that power comes in many forms and responsibilities comes in many forms as well. And you mentioned it, ወንዶች ደሞዝ ሲከፈላቸው ለቤት ምን ነገር ነው የሚያወጡት የሚለውን. In my experience, I'm very fortunate to have been around very amazing men, is in ለቤተሰባቸው የሚገኙ አሉ. That's a problem in itself for men. ግን
is it a problem?
Oh, it is a problem.
We'll continue that when we leave.
Women nurturing hunu tablo, they can't unlearn it. Men demo provider hunu tablo, they can't unlearn. Like the struggles I'm having with my mother and father personally. My mother doesn't understand what the concept. We have a lot of privileges. She doesn't understand what passion is. Something that we can define in so many ways. What's your passion? What do you like to do? What's your purpose? Like from the family she was in to the family she migrated. Yeah, she migrated to be part of. And from the family to the family she formed. These are the 3 social environments she's known. And so in all of those, she's been the nurturer. Father, on the other hand, he's always been a provider. To the shepherd that he was when he was a young kid, and to the single mother that he had to support, to when he actually moved into a social movement where he had to be the one at the frontier of being, I don't know, providing like ideologies ሊሆን ይችላል, support ሊሆን ይችላል, ራሱን ማጣት የሚችልበት ቦታ ላይ አስቀምጠው, because he had to be at the forefront of that. And then to the family where he became nothing else but a provider. So as far as the gender gap goes, I want to say to people that it hurts both genders.
It does.
That what people don't understand. I would love to have a capable partner. Thank
you. The funny part, the unfortunate funny part is for, let's face it, a lot of girls in your society is they learn the aim in their life is to have a good marriage. No? Kaptoshal is to work towards being a good mom and to be in a good marriage, and not consistently reimburse የሚደረገው idea ነው. So if you tell this girl, if you out earn your mate, chances are he's not gonna find you attractive. He's gonna feel like you're the masculine energy in the house. Therefore, you're not gonna gain what society deems to be something worthy. Are we really motivating the idea of her achieving?
Okay, so
I feel like motivating ሳይሆን የሞቲቬቲንግ ተቃራኒ demotivation ነው የሚሰጠው. Even if when she can perform well, አሁን ለምሳሌ I've been around like beautiful women that were also smart but never used the smart bit, because that it's easier to be like more accessible, and you can earn and support yourself without being smart now. I think it's a big downfall for everybody. ሁለተኛው ደግሞ like it's not like you're going to be taken seriously when you're like smart. Hey, what would be the point? There are not enough incentives for competent women to exist. So I think that's also an issue, but if you don't mind, this is where we should wrap up today. Okay. So I guess the ending point should be the pay gap and the burden gap hurts everybody, and we should alleviate these things by starting from the bottom. ነበር የዛሬ እንትናቸው የመጨረሻ ነጥባችን. We'll see you next time. We'd like to thank Taraki and the Taraki team for their space and efforts to help this platform grow. We'd like to thank Rovel for joining us for today's topic. See you next time.
Bye.
Yeah.